So if you've ever felt like the message that you're sharing online is just kind of going out into the void, it's falling on deaf ears, nobody really seems to care about what it is that you're saying, that can be a very hard and disheartening place to be. So in this video, I want to help you kind of turn that around. So I'm going to give you some tips that I follow, some practices that I do in my business to help me ensure that I have an engaged audience, even with a much smaller audience. You don't need a big audience. You just need a highly engaged audience of people who genuinely care about what you have to say and the work and the services that you're putting out into the world. One of the things that I love about slow marketing, and I've transitioned to a more slow marketing philosophy about 8 years ago. I've been doing this for a long time. I started my business about 10 years ago, and I started with a lot of the more traditional methods of getting followers, of growing an audience. A lot of the foundation of more of the traditional ways to market your business that's being taught online is really focused solely on, growing numbers and scaling versus that human component. The most important critical piece of all this is that human connection that we have with the people who we want to work with. So one of the things that I love about following a slower, more intentional approach to growing an audience is you're actually creating content for people who want to hear what you have to say versus just having a superficial metric, which is meaningless, of having a big follower count, having a large audience when they really don't care. They're not interested in what you're offering. They're not interested in what you're saying or what you're selling. So long term, that's not benefiting you. It's not benefiting them. So the whole purpose here is that you're building loyal long-term followers and a community that's really invested in you because the message that you have and that you share online is relevant for them, it's meaningful for them, and it's offering them value so that they can transform in their life or in their business, however your work supports them. The other piece to this is that slow marketing is really about focusing on quality versus quantity, and not just quality in your message and the content that you share, but quality in your audience as well. Meaning you're not just building a following of, thousands of people, but you can have a very successful, thriving and fulfilling business with a much smaller audience, providing that that audience is really resonating with the message that you have, that they're aligned with the essence of who you are. They have a genuine connection to what it is that you're saying online. Okay, so the first slow business practice that I want to share with you is you want to curate your audience versus just attract a big audience. This can be very scary for people. When I say curate your audience, you're really honing in on who are the people that are going to be the most impacted by your message, who really genuinely want to hear what you have to say. And this means deleting and removing and letting go of people who don't align with that message, who don't align with your work. Many years ago, I've written about this on Instagram and I've shared about it in my podcast about how I deleted over 1,500 followers from my audience. And I do not have a big audience to this day. I don't have a big audience, but at the time I had only had an audience of maybe 2,000 people. So I deleted like 1,500. I've deleted well over half of my audience. And what I found was at first it was very scary to do this. And I thought I had to really think about, was this something that I wanted to do? Because if I made the decision to delete people from my audience, there was no getting those people back. But at that time, I was feeling very disconnected. I had made some slight shifts. I've made some pivots. So the audience that I had now been attracting felt very disjointed. And I felt as though the engagement wasn't as strong as it could have been because I had so many different types of followers who had followed me throughout different points of my marketing journey and through my business journey. So what I chose to do instead was to really thoughtfully go through a process of removing anybody who I felt didn't align, who I felt wouldn't benefit from what it was that I had to say. And rather than seeing my engagement dwindle with less followers, it actually was the opposite. I saw people engaging more because one, I showed up differently. When I knew that I was speaking to an audience of people who genuinely cared what I had to say, who I knew needed to hear the message and would benefit from it, I showed up differently. I had more inspiration. I was coming from a place of joy and fulfillment and desire to be there to create content and share that with my audience, versus before when I was also feeling disconnected from my message because I wasn't connected to my audience. This might seem like a counterintuitive strategy, and I get that it could also feel really scary to delete numbers, to delete people from your following, and you don't have to do it as drastically as I did, but I would definitely encourage you to spend an hour or so going through Instagram or your email newsletter list or wherever you're showing up, whatever platform you're using, to make sure you're really going through that list. Delete anybody who hasn't engaged with your work in 6 months or more. That's an easy one. Delete all of those people and then go through it and make a judgment call. Is this somebody who you think would benefit? I deleted a lot of people who didn't have businesses. I deleted a lot of people who I could tell just by the type of content that they were sharing, we were not in alignment with our message. So I got rid of people like that. I mean, you might be concerned that you'll delete people who do want to be there, but if they're not engaging with you, there's a good chance that you're not even on their radar anyway. So that's the first place I would start, is to begin to curate the type of people that are following you versus focusing on growing your numbers and attracting more people into your following. So the second practice that I follow is crafting intentional, mindful messaging and words. So being very thoughtful with your words. There's so much about the mainstream way of marketing your business and getting word out about your work is to be loud, is to create content that's eye-catching, that's going to grab attention and stop the scroll. And I will admit that in the past, I have definitely tried those methods on to see how they work. But what I have found, again, is that it brings in superficial engagement, not long-lasting, genuine connections with people who really want to learn more about your work, who are loyal to you and who are going to keep coming back when you put out new offerings or share workshops. What I have also found is that when you can be very thoughtful and intentional with your marketing, being thoughtful about the words that you're using, is that is much more impactful, and that is so much more powerful than all of the other noise. People stop and notice. We're so used to being sold to that when somebody just genuinely shows up and is thoughtful and intentional about the way they speak in a very human-centered way, people notice. People aren't used to seeing that online. We're so used to being sold to all the time that it's refreshing to see somebody who's doing the opposite. So one of the things that can really be helpful here is just taking a step back and asking yourself, who am I really speaking to? Who's going to care the most about what I have to say? And then thoughtfully creating a message that speaks directly to the hearts and minds of those people. The other thing that you want to be very careful of is using tactics, manipulative marketing tactics that coerce people into buying your stuff or engaging with you. Because in the long term, yes, that may help you get sales faster, that may help you grow an audience faster, but in the long term, those people, they're not going to be repeat clients. They're not going to be the ones spreading the word about your work. They're not going to be the ones sharing about you online because they've been sold to. They've been sold something that they don't need. They've been sold something that really isn't a fit for them. So before you post anything online, you can ask yourself, is this message going to resonate with the person that I want to be connecting with? Like, hold a vivid picture of that person in your mind, the person that you really feel will benefit from your work and from what you have to say. And ask yourself, are your words going to land with that person? Is that something that they need to hear right now that's going to help move them forward? The third slow marketing practice is to show up authentically, not some perfectly polished version of yourself. This is a mistake, and it's still something that I struggle with from time to time because I am a perfectionist and I do like things to look a certain way. But what I've noticed is when I am perfectly polished, people don't connect with that. I don't get the same kind of engagement as when I show up and I'm vulnerable in my work and I share about the raw experiences that I've had, or I allow my videos and my content to be shared with mistakes, with flaws, and let people see who it is that I really am. People can relate to that so much more easily than someone who is perfectly polished, who has it all together. If you want to engage with people in a deeply meaningful way, let them see the real you. Let them see all of your flaws. Let them see the unedited version of you. Let them see you make mistakes. Let them see you fall and get back up. Share about not just the successes that you've had, but the failures and let people relate to you based on that. Because it's very easy when you're sharing about something online or you have your work, you are 3, 4, maybe 10 steps ahead of where your people are at. Your audience is there because they want to learn from you. So what can happen is we can get ahead of ourselves and we can forget what it's like to be in the trenches or to be struggling with something. Share something real with your audience. Whatever the rhythm is for you, whether that's once a week or once a month, whatever you can do, make sure that you're sharing something real with people. People relate to people who stumble over their words and who make mistakes. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show people that you're a real human, especially this day and age of all of this AI generated content. People are craving connection with others. People want a human connection with someone that gets them, with someone that they can see themselves in. Make that work to your advantage, and things will be much more seamless and much more interesting for your audience when you can show up as a raw, real, and relatable human. The fourth slow marketing practice that I want to share with you is to focus on impact over metrics. Just think for a minute that you posted something online on Instagram or wherever you're showing up, and you put something out there and it gets 1,000 likes and it gets a bunch of lame and sort of generic comments that are meaningless, a bunch of emojis or, oh, nice, great content, but there's no real substance to it, versus posting something that has just a few likes but sparks some really deep, insightful, and meaningful conversation with real people out there trying to learn what it is that you can teach them. It's going to feel so much more meaningful and impactful for you and for them when you can focus on depth versus posting something for the sake of posting because you've missed a few days or you feel like you should be posting every day. In the early days when I started my business, I used to get so hung up on likes and all of these superficial metrics. I kind of feel embarrassed if I posted something and nobody connected with it, nobody liked it, nobody left any comments. But over time, after doing this, and you realize what's really important here, when you get a meaningful comment from somebody and the world of difference it makes when you know that something you've said or something you've shared has impacted somebody or has touched them in some way that you know that they're reflecting on or they're going to take action on, it's going to help move them forward in a meaningful way. That is the true measure of success. Not random likes, not meaningless comments, not a few emojis that really have no value. Having a meaningful connection with someone in my audience, getting to know them more, learning about their business is worth more to me than hundreds of people who would never move beyond just pressing a button. If metrics are truly important to you, then just have a metric of having one meaningful conversation with someone from your audience each week. Maybe it's by email, maybe it's engaging meaningfully in the comments with someone who shared something that was valuable with you. Like, take the time to invest in those metrics because those things are truly the measure of success. The fifth practice that I want to share with you is prioritizing relationship building over selling. One of the big flaws that I see with mainstream marketing is there's a lot of pressure and tactics that are used to get people to buy now versus slowing down and thinking about this long term and building those loyal connections so that people feel seen, heard, and truly understood, and they stick with you over time. They want to not just sign up for the one thing that you have to offer, but they're interested in many of the things that you have to offer. They share about your work. They share your work with others. They tell people about the work that they've done with you and the transformation they've had because they genuinely feel connected to you. Building trust and having a genuine connection with your audience is the foundation of sustainable long-term growth for your business. Building long-term relationships is really about fostering a true connection with people and remembering that there's a human being on the other side listening and reading and taking in your words and, just absorbing your message and consuming the content that you share. So never losing sight of that. So take the time to genuinely connect with people through the comment section. If somebody leaves you a comment and they tell you about something you've shared and how it's impacted them, take the time to get to know them better. Ask them questions. Ask them about their business or their life or what led them to you in the first place, and start to really take an interest in people. Ask questions, show genuine curiosity for people. So to wrap this video up, slow marketing is not about connecting with everybody. It's not about quantity. It's really about connecting with the right people, having a quality audience, not a big audience, but having a quality audience who genuinely want to hear what it is you have to say, who genuinely care about the work and the offerings that you're putting out into the world because it's relevant. They feel seen and heard and understood through your message. This is not about numbers. This is truly about building a community that resonates with your work. So I would love to hear if there are any of these strategies or practices that you would like to implement in your business and which ones resonated with you the most. If you'd like to follow along with my journey of building a slow business that aligns with who I am and feels thoughtful and intentional, then subscribe to this channel or download my free audio coaching guide, The Art of Slow Business, so that you can start building a business that feels like a genuine expression of who you are. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.